Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every week for our latest episode. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm talking to Gavin Meiring. Gavin is a founder and a shareholder of the Taste of Tulbagh. Welcome to About the Winelands, Gavin.
Hi, it's good to be here. Thanks, Will.
No, I mean, it's our pleasure, but we always have to be thankful that you take time out of your busy day to speak to our listeners.
Well, it's about wine, so I mean, what more excuse do we need?
We don't need an excuse to talk about wine. It's a bit early. I'm not sure if we can have a virtual tasting yet, but we can do that at another stage.
Right.
Gavin, if I can just start by asking you to give us a bit of background on yourself and how you got involved in the wine industry.
Well, my actual background in terms of a profession is more to do with radio. I've been with various radio stations around the country and stuff, and for some reason, and it wasn't a wine reason, it was a historic reason, I ended up settling in Tulbagh. And that is kind of, and the 11 wine farms in the valley and living in Tulbagh, I got to discover some of the best wines are coming out of there. So getting involved in the wine industry really happened by default. I never sort of thought about it until I was there and realized, well, this is a great place to be and I should be doing stuff with wine, and then getting to know winemakers and the people that made the wine, it became more and more intriguing with me. So here we are, with the Taste of Tulbagh.
Well, that's awesome. Can you tell us a bit about how did you guys start the Taste of Tulbagh and what does the Taste of Tulbagh actually do?
Okay, so as I said, the story behind it was that some of the best wines are coming out of in South Africa and even the world for that matter. For a long time, have been coming out of Tulbagh, but not many people know about it. They're award-winning international wines, and it goes back to even the 70s when Tinus Krog was producing one of the best Rieslings in the world and winning awards for it and still is. But yet it's not known that it's really a Tulbagh wine. So I just thought, and with my partners, we thought about looking at creating a portal, an online wine shop, as it were, that focuses purely on the wines that come out of Tulbagh. So yes, it is very niched, but it's a way of exposing the wines that come out of Tulbagh, but also making people recognize that the wines that they probably know already. They didn't know the wine of origin was Tulbagh. It's always the Western Cape. And, the other bigger wine producers like Franschhoek and Stellenbosch and areas like Paarl tend to get more of the credit of what wines that come out of this place. But there are lots of other smaller areas that have boutique wines that are really good. So that's who we focus on, and that's really where the history of Taste of Tulbagh comes. We created this website. We've been running now for just under a year, and obviously it's been challenging through COVID. But yes, we've taken the time to really perfect what we're doing and making sure that the wines out of this valley really look good and are accessible to everyone in the country and around the world.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, the Tulbagh Valley is such a wonderful place to visit. I mean, I assume, you're an online wine shop, but the whole wine tourism business there must also be quite large in terms of people visiting in the estates and staying over for weekends and stuff like that.
Yes, indeed. I mean, look, it's got its tourist value. I mean, the other thing that people don't really know about Tulbagh is that it is the second oldest town in South Africa. I mean, there was Cape Town and then something called Roodersand that developed into what we know as Tulbagh today. And then came Paarl, Stellenbosch, and all the other towns. Everything else grew, but Tulbagh remained the same. So if you go back there, it feels like you're going back into time, into the sort of late 1600s and early 1700s. So, I mean, as I mentioned, there's some of the excellent wines that we have on our shop, but also are well known in the area. The best known probably is Kroner, the MCC that has been made from Twee Jong. But there's also MCC from Sarensburg, and that's a really also a top quality wine that's probably well known. Montpellier been around, can you believe, from 1714. That makes it over 300 years old, and it produces some amazing wines. And then there's Rakes. I mentioned Tinneskraal earlier, one of the newer winemakers in the valley, but it's also world renowned. Lemberg, and then there's Oda Companies Post, also linked to Swanepoel, Diggers Home, Waverley Hills, and we also have Buchanan's Craft Beer. I added it to the Taste of Tulbagh, given that it's coming out of Tulbagh itself. And another well-known brand that comes out of the valley is Oakhurst Olives, which we also include on the actual portal itself. So it's a collection of the things that taste great out of Tulbagh, but obviously the concentration is on wine.
Well, that's very interesting. If there's so you're obviously going to build a portal out wider to represent all the tastes of Tulbagh, which I think is wonderful. But how do you pick your producers? And if there's somebody out there producing a wine or maybe something else, and they want to get onto your shop, how do they, how do you pick them? How do they get hold of you? And what are your requirements?
It's really simple. If it's made in Tulbagh, we would like to sell it. I mean, certainly if we can taste it. So obviously we're looking for food products, but not necessarily food products. The concentration is on wine. Food products are tricky when it comes to delivering and those kind of things. And here's a shop in a village called Made in Tulbagh, where people can find arts and crafts and all those kinds of things. So I think for now it's more a case of olives and wines. And yes, there are a few little boutique winemakers that are popping up. The one that springs to mind is about to be loaded onto our site is called Die Kliphuis. And again, it's a quality wine it's been made by one of the really fantastic winemakers in the valley, associated with another brand, but nevertheless, those are the kind of things, and it will grow. I mean, as there are more brands that become available, and if the brands want to become available, just contact us on our site. There's a contact tab, and we would certainly include it.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you selling only in South Africa, and are you planning to sell anywhere else?
Look, no, international orders are available, but we haven't got the portal managed on the site, but on email request only at this stage, as we would have to process it differently. So if people from outside of South Africa want the wines and are interested in the wines, we encourage you to email at info@tasteoftulbagh.co.za. That's info@tasteoftulbagh.co.za, or contact us on the site itself. So all the payments, or should I say, all the orders would be distributed in South Africa. If it's an international client, it would be best to email us directly in order to make that happen. But we are soon going to be adding on an actual tab that will process it immediately, but it isn't in place at the moment.
I assume that all your most of the big estates are selling overseas anyway, so that is very easy to organize.
Yeah, no, sure, and obviously that market is very interested in the wines that are coming out of South Africa. And Tulbagh, because it's such a tourist destination for Europeans, I mean, the amount of Dutch tourists that we get and Germans, because of the history of the town itself and what they can feel and experience, you're not going to get elsewhere in its remoteness and its little villageness, as it were. So there's a lot of interest in Tulbagh as a destination, and as such, the wines are of interest as well. So yes, export is a major not concern, but we know that it's something we absolutely have to be doing.
Yeah, definitely. I think that is wonderful. I noticed on your website that you also have a wine club. So can you tell us a little bit more about the wine club?
Well, I think the idea about the wine club is just to create a collective of people that are interested in wine, but also, to be able to be, to be more familiar and get to taste the wines on a regular basis. So these wines are produced and bottled, for the club members, and it'll be essentially, you can have a premier or a silver membership, but you can have a free membership, which just sends you a newsletter every month just about the wine itself. And then there is a premier membership where you pay for 3 months up front, and what happens is you will have a case or selection of the wines that will be delivered to you. And then a silver membership is a monthly fee. But the idea again is that we'll send a case to you at every quarter or every month. We're just going to see what the popularity is. So we're collecting memberships at the moment. But that's kind of how it works. And it really is it's just a chance to sample, because as I mentioned, not all of these wines are readily available in bottle stores around the country. I mean, that's also the other reason why we started Taste of Tulbagh, was that there's limited access to these particular award-winning wines. And there are some wine farms that don't even bottle and sell in South Africa. It literally gets bought off the vines and sent directly to Europe. So there is, there's that already. So I think what we're saying is that we want people to be able to taste it, we want people to experience it. And that's why we think the club is important. And there'll be other things that we'll be doing with the club, including tastings and, even venturing out into creating Taste of Tulbagh wine club tours and the like.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I think that segues nicely into my next question is what is your long-term vision for Taste of Tulbagh?
Well, yeah, exactly. So exactly that. I think it has potential to grow, not just as an online shop or an online portal, but yes, we'll build towards creating wine club tours, wine tastings in different regions, and even doing the Taste of Tulbagh wine tastings in places like Johannesburg and elsewhere around the country, even in Durban for that matter, and of course in Cape Town Central itself, because again, it's about showing the different flavors of what we do. I was talking to another event organizer about an event that we maybe are creating in Khayelitsha. And again, we'll have a Taste of Tulbagh center and stand with that, exposing a completely different market to understanding the kind of wines that we bring out. But ultimately, I think the long-term vision is to be this portal, but one day, we're aiming towards 23 or 24, is to have a Taste of Tulbagh food and wine festival. I do events in Tulbagh as well, so that would be something that could become a major annual event.
Yeah, that is actually not a bad idea to have a Taste of Tulbagh food and wine festival. But at the moment, we are a bit restricted in this area, and it brings me to the next thing is, the coronavirus. And it's forced all of us to really rethink our business models. And I think your business has almost been born out of this whole situation. So what is your, do you have any changes or new ideas in mind in terms of this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, we're in a situation where events are not even feasible, even just doing simple wine tastings on the wine farms. Over the last lockdown, that wasn't even possible. So I think, and certainly for 21, but that's why I'm saying, 22 or, 23 or 24, the possibility of doing events is going to be a reality again. I think one must understand that the whole idea about wine is an experience, and yes, I think the online sales have increased. People know how to do that more now than perhaps before, and this is across all sectors. But with wine, it's about the experience. Virtual tastings don't always work. That you're not really there experiencing unless you have the wine and being on the farms. The farms themselves are so beautiful. That experience is what I see people wanting to get back to, because it can't necessarily be replicated. It's like talking to a live music artist, and he's going to tell you that every virtual show that he's done is like not even 1% of the feeling and the actuality of being face to face to its audience. So these are the realities of our lives that we are going to have to get back to at some point. But I think the online sales, yes, we saw a gap in the market for that. But also, I think we possibly would have done it anyway, just given, you know, how little people know about Tulbagh wines, you know, and how people should know more about it because of its quality.
I think online sales, or as they call it in the industry now, direct to consumer, is really growing, and it was growing anyway, but the coronavirus has just
Yes.
increased the speed of that growth.
Yes,
So,
it just accelerates for sure.
so your delivery time, I think this is the main thing for consumers, right? If they're sitting, they can't get to Tulbagh, but um, uh, uh, they have a choice of going to the local bottle store and buying something. But if they can get something delivered to their homes fairly quickly, they would be inclined to order online. And also, like you said, they would be able to get hold of wines that wouldn't be otherwise available. Um, how long does it take from ordering on your site for the product is actually delivered?
Yeah, I mean, contrary to popular belief, Tulbagh isn't in another country. I mean, I travel to Paarl just about every day, and and it really is a 40-minute drive. So it is part of the winelands, and it's part of what we can do here. So in terms of, depending on where you are in Cape Town, we could probably get it in about 2 or 3 days. But if it's outside of the Western Cape, you know, in Gauteng, it's be looking at 7 days that we'll be able to get that ordered.
What about, the other question that people always have is the cost of delivery for clients. Is that a huge factor?
Well, of course it is. I think, you know, it's about that convenience. So, you know, we look at the cost, and could be, it depends. The thing is that for the first case, it would be, I think, around 120 Rand. But every case thereafter, it'll be another 30 Rand on that. So it's a case of, well, it's a case. It's really if one was to order, it would be better to order 3-4 cases at a time, because rather than ordering over a period of time, because then you're only paying, you're economizing or optimizing in terms of the delivery itself. So that's it is a factor. And of course, when it comes to international deliveries, that is astronomical. I mean, it really, you end up paying probably twice the cost of the wine just in export duties and in travel costs, unfortunately. But it all factors out, because at the end of the day, to purchase wine in Europe from South African origin is always going to be expensive, because all those costs have already been, they've gone through the process. So the bigger the quantity, the easier it is. But yes, exporting it has its cost, but I think from a local perspective, the convenience of not having to come to Tulbagh, but you can get it, is attractive.
Oh, that's all interesting. Gavin, your wine journey hasn't been that long, but you've already, I think, learned quite a few things. What is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
Yes, you're right. I haven't been in the wine business I've only like 5 years that I've been living in Tulbagh, really. And I wasn't even in the business there. It was more like a fascination and an interest. But what really got to me was the actual winemaking process. From the growing of the vine and the nurturing of the grapes on the vine itself, to the harvest. When is the right time to harvest? And it's sometimes even touch and go. You can miss it by a week, you can be week too early. And then of course the final making of the wine. So it boils down, it's an art. And it's the science of doing it is what I appreciate a lot more now. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it myself, but I do appreciate and know what goes into it, and as a result, appreciate the wine you drink.
Well, as a wine lover, I have to ask you, can you give us your very own wine quote?
Yeah. Well, my favorite one, it makes me sound like a wino, but wine o'clock is any time of the day. But I think the one that is most used is that life is too short to drink bad wine, and that can be used with coffee and chocolate for that matter. But 1 o'clock is any time of the day is the one that's for me.
Well, I like the one also that says International Wine Day is from the 1st of January to the 31st of December.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Gavin, how do people get hold of you if they want to order wine from the Taste of Tulbagh? How do they get hold of you?
The Taste of Tulbagh.com is the website to go to. It's a very easy process, and our site is a little different to others, where if you're ordering from a particular wine farm, you don't have to order 6 of the same type of wine. In other words, you could within the farm itself, you could have 2 Cab Sauv, a Sauvignon Blanc or Chenin, or maybe a Pinotage or something of that nature, depending on what they have. But they will mix up the wines in your case, so you don't have to get 6 of one. That's the one unique thing that we have, but you do have to order a minimum of 6 from the wine farm itself. And then, yes, but it's tasteoftulbagh.com, or you can email us on info@tasteoftulbagh.co.za.
I see somebody whispered in my ear that you've got free delivery on 4 cases or more.
Oh, really? Okay. That sounds, in fact, absolutely. If it's 4 cases or more, we'll exclude the delivery.
So there you go. If you guys are listening to this, if you go to tasteoftulbagh.com now and you order 5 cases of wine, they deliver it to your doorstep for free.
Correct.
I see also the email address for orders, orders@tasteoftulbagh.com. So,
Okay.
so yeah, go to the website. Gavin, thank you very, very much for being on here. We appreciate your time, as I've said before. And I definitely would love to have a follow-on conversation with you guys again later in the year to see how things are going.
I'd love to chat to you, and thanks so much for the opportunity. It's really nice to know that you've got this communication going out there, because there's never enough for people in the wine industry. They're going through tough times. I mean, we see, the farms themselves are sitting with a lot of excess stock. Some aren't, actually. Some have got the stuff to Europe quite quickly. So, but nevertheless, it's not easy. And support the local winemakers, as much as you can, because we produce really good wine, and we need all the support we can get. And if you're out in the region, please give me a call. I'd love to show you around, and I'm sure you've been to some of them, but perhaps there are others that you haven't, and I'll be able to take you there.
That was wonderful. Thanks, Gavin.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description.